Welcome to the Sunshine Parenting Podcast. My name is Audrey Monkey, and I am your host. In episode 5 of the podcast, I'm talking with Jeff Cheley, a longtime friend and fellow camp professional. Jeff has been, for the past 18 years, along with his sister Brooke, the part of the 4th generation of camp ownership and leadership in his family at Cheley Colorado Camps in Estes Park, Colorado. He's a graduate of the University of Texas, and with his wife Erika, has 3 sons. Jeff is active in the American Camp Association and is a firm believer in 21st century skills and how camp can help kids gain those skills. I'm really happy to welcome Jeff Cheley to the program today. Hey, Jeff, welcome to the podcast today.
Thank you.
Really happy to have you on here and to hear your wisdom and what you do at Cheley Colorado Camps and how you've used some of those same tips at home. So first, tell us about your family and Cheley.
So my family, my great-grandfather started Cheley Colorado Camps back in 1921, and he ran it until he passed away, and then my grandfather was in charge for many years, and then my dad was in charge for many years, and now my sister and I are kind of at the helm and carrying the torch. So we will celebrate our 100th anniversary in 3 years. This will be our 97th summer, so we've got a nice long tradition.
And I know that there are so many alumni and current families who just love Cheley. What is it about Cheley that you think draws people back for so many years?
We really have a sincere focus on youth development and really creating a positive experience. Our mission talks about building lasting character and resiliency and creating unique life experiences in a challenging and nurturing natural environment. So, I think campers initially are drawn to camp for the activities, whether it's hiking or horseback riding or backpacking or stand-up paddleboarding or mountain biking, tech climbing. But once they get there, they're really the relationships that they make, their ability to kind of unplug and settle in. I sincerely believe right now camp is almost more important than it was many years ago because it's giving children a chance to unplug, to meet people from all around the world. We have campers from 45 states and usually about 15 to 20 foreign countries, so campers are meeting people from different areas of the U.S. and learning different cultures and different mindsets. So they build relationships that, we hear alumni that talk about their best friends that, 40 years later they met at camp and they were the best man or the maid of honor in their wedding or, have helped them through challenging times. So the relationships that come out of camp and just the growth and the skills that we provide, I think, are really what set us apart.
Oh, definitely. I mean, definitely you have just a stellar reputation. And I know as a parent who sent a child to Cheley, what a phenomenal program you have. So it's just great to be able to talk to you and get to hear about some of the things that you do at Cheley and also kind of advice and ideas that parents can maybe use at home. So one of the things that we've talked about before is how you've focused at Cheley on teaching your counselors to use a growth mindset when they're working with kids. So can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing at Cheley to focus on that?
Sure. It was interesting. We had, I think the American Camp Association does such a great job at their national conference. Their youth development book out. Paul Tuff's been there. Madeline Levine has spoke at ACA. And Carol Dweck talked about the growth mindset. And I heard about the book and kind of learned a little bit about it. And then our children's school did a nice job, too. They're talking more about it and introducing the idea more at parent-teacher conferences or at, PTO meetings, that type of thing. So I had heard it through camp. We've talked to our staff about it. We've had people during staff training that have touched on it. And really just talks about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. A simple example is someone, if your child says, I suck at math, or, my wife always says, I just can't remember numbers. And it's such a fixed mindset that you've almost accepted that you're not good at that, or at camp, well, I'm just not a good mountain biker, or I'm just not a good hiker. And it's changing that mindset to more of a growth mindset that, maybe you're not great at it now, but, I'm becoming better at it, or I've seen things happen. So, I think what it looks like, and it's such a hard thing to get to. We heard somewhere from a speaker, like the worst thing you can say to your kid is, great job or nice job, or, on accomplishing something, which as a parent, we probably say it 15 times a day, and you're like, gosh, what else could I say?
Right.
When a kid takes his dishes to the sink after dinner, you're like, hey, great job. And like, really? That's kind of expected. But what Carol talks about in the book is praising them more for the effort, or I think I try not to compliment my children on what they did, but kind of the effort that went into it, or the growth that we're seeing. So, a great example, and I probably didn't do this as well as I should have, but last night our school is doing high five stickers. So if they catch you doing something right, they give you a high five sticker, and it's been going on throughout the year. And so our middle son, who has a very big temper and sometimes gets in trouble on the playground because he's so competitive, yesterday got a high five sticker during the playground because he was doing a really good job of playing with the other kids. So, it's a neat way that they were celebrating him having a positive attitude and working well with others, and it was, he was rewarded for that rather than, hey, you scored 2 goals, or you accomplished this one feat, which if we compliment children on that, I think then they realize, oh my gosh, I have to do that for praise. I have to succeed or accomplish something rather than just be a good person.
Yeah, that's such a great thing. Sounds like a really neat program at your kids' school. Hey, Jeff, before we go on, why don't you tell us how old your kids are and just a little bit about your family, because we missed that at the beginning.
Sure. So we have 3 boys, a 7-year-old, almost 8, named Jackson. We have a 6-year-old named Harrison, and a 4-year-old named Hayden. So 3 boys running around the house. There's a lot of competitive energy, a lot of testosterone. Yeah. So, but a lot of laughs.
Yeah, well. Sounds like it. Well, I know something that, I've known you for many years, in fact, even before you had kids. And One of the things I know we've talked as we've connected over the years is just about how much, our experience at camp, being camp counselors, being campers, all the things that we've experienced at camp, how they've helped us in our own families and as parents. And I already hear just the way you're talking that you are using a lot of the same philosophies that you use at Cheley in your own home. Tell us you told me about that great program at I think it's through your kids' school. Tell us about that, because I had not heard anything like that. It sounds like a really neat program that you're doing there.
There's an organization called All Pro Dads. It was started by, I believe, by Tony Dungy, who was was an NFL coach, and then once he retired, he's a pretty religious person, but the program doesn't really talk about religion. It talks more about just teaching children valuable lessons and values that probably most of us at camp are teaching. So the way it's set up is that there's just our school, both the elementary school, and then another friend of mine is the kind of the leader for the middle school. All Pro Dads will push out content once a month, and they'll have a 2 or 3 minute video, and then they have a couple questions for the parents and the children to talk about. So we go a little bit early to school, have breakfast at school, which I think is really why my kids like doing it, because when you go to school for breakfast, they have Lucky Charms and Fruit Loops for breakfast, right, rather than the boring options we have at home. So I'm still not sure if they like going for that or if they like going for the conversation. But so during breakfast, they'll have a small sheet that you talk about, what does it mean to connect with others, and how how have you and I connected in the last week, or what does it look like to be a good friend? And so there's questions where the parent can kind of share, or the father, since it's all dads in this situation, would share, this is how I connect with my friends, or this is how I support my friends. And then they'll talk about what have you seen. And then when we meet up as a group, so you do that individually, and then when we meet up as a group, they'll show a video, and before the video, each parent stands up, shares just a quick little story or example of how they are proud of their children. So right now I'm there with two of my boys that are at our elementary school, and so we'll stand up and say what you're proud of. And I've thought about it, and I need to act on it, but I'd love to talk to Andy, the person that kind of leads the program. I'd love to meet with the dads for 5 minutes after one of these sessions, just to teach the benefit of how we recognize our children. Because if you say, I'm really proud of my son for, he scored 5 goals, or he skied this black run, or whatever, it's a lot of our kids are skiing, so we're talking about, they've become much better skiers, and they're skiing through the trees, and they're doing this. It's more of that fixed mindset versus if we recognize our children for the effort that they put in, or the resiliency they showed, or a challenge they overcame, or a value that we want to see them develop. I think they see, oh, wow, I'm being recognized because, I didn't make the soccer team and I dealt with it, or I didn't score a goal, or I didn't get to play as much, or my friend was really bummed out and I helped them through that. So I'm always trying to recognize them to talk more about values that I'm seeing rather than specific accomplishments.
Oh, that's excellent. So kind of like taking, almost like how you train your counselors and maybe giving some advice to the other dads in the group. That would be really awesome, because I do think we are so fixed on thinking about our kids' academic and athletic achievements. And it's so important to instead really show our kids that what matters most to us is that they become really good people and with great character. So that's just awesome. I think that sounds like such a good program. In the show notes for this podcast, I'll put links to the different books that you've mentioned and that organization so that people can look into that and see if maybe they can bring it to their school or something like that.
Jeff, it's a very neat organization because they'll send you a daily email that talks about whether it's how to be a better father, how to be a better husband, and there is a more of a Christian bent to it, but I think you don't have to buy into that if that's not something that you're as connected with. I think there's a lot of great, just quick little reminders every day. So.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good resource. So also, I guess just in terms of what other things, when you think about your parenting style, what other things do you think you've learned from all your experience at camp that you're using in your own family?
One other one the other day, I had an opportunity just this past couple of months to talk to Tina Bryson, who also has written some wonderful books. I was talking to her at the conference, and I rattled off like 3 or 4 traits of one of our children, and she rattled off 6 more that just perfectly described him. And I looked at her like, how do you know him? And just had some questions for how do we deal with he's very passionate. He's an amazing athlete, but sometimes he gets a little frustrated. And how do we work through that? And some of them were just reminders that were like, gosh, get on the same level with them. And she said even when they're frustrated, they're kind of in that red zone and they're angry. And that's not when you're going to teach. That's not when you're going to change behavior. The mind is, it's changed. So you've got to help them cool down, and then that's when the teaching happens. And so, you see that great counselor at camp is the one that kind of gets down on their knee and talks to the child, or almost gets below them, so that they're looking down rather than kind of in this, standing over them, looking with more power. And so that's something just to kind of sit down. I think there's the power of putting your hand on their shoulder and kind of calming them that way. So, a lot of it, I think, is just being at that equal level, and it's so amazing you see people that aren't doing that. We even just the change, we don't do a lot of technology with our children, and we're trying to have more conversations and sitting down at dinner, which is something that we really pride ourselves on at camp, too. Our meals are 30 minutes, and you're going to sit and talk about your day, and there's no technology there. No one's grabbing their phone to check, a text or whatever. So
yeah, that's so good. Yeah, I love Tina Payne Bryson's work, and that I really learned a lot from reading her books. And I think there's a lot of ways that at camp we help kids learn to calm down. And those same things are great for our kids and for ourselves as parents. I find that a lot of it is, when our kid's upset, sometimes we're upset at them for their behavior, and then we're upset too. So it's really not a good time to talk to them about it. You really both need to be in that calm state to have any productive discussion about, different options of ways to act in a certain situation. So that's really, really great advice for just for parents to think about. And I think, actually, I don't know if you agree, Jeff, but I think it's much easier when you're a counselor for other people's kids to stay calm than as a parent with your own kids. Do you find that it's kind of easier to be patient?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I coach flag football and support coaching lacrosse. And I think both ways. I think it's easier to be calmer. And I also think you have more impact when you have to get a little bit more stern. And it's been nice. I think a lot of the parents in our community have a similar parenting style. I had a dad the other day that said, please be as strict as you can with our son because we're trying to help him with some of this. And so it really is, it takes a village like it does at camp. You've got, multiple staff, 10, 12, 14 staff in a unit or a section that are working with those kids. And a lot of times it's sharing advice on, hey, this has worked or that has worked, or, I may be able to say something to a friend of mine's son that he's going to hear more from me than he is from his dad because I'm the coach at that time and I'm not seeing him on a day-to-day basis. So.
Sure. Yeah. I think that is such an important thing. I think a lot of times parents, kind of get more isolated when they're dealing with a situation with their kids. And I've found it always so much better to reach out and get advice from other people and kind of discuss it, because you end up finding out that a lot of people are facing similar challenges with one of their kids that we're facing. So really great input, so inspiring. And I really especially love just that the breakfast that you have with your sons. I like that it's kind of like facilitated discussion, which is a lot like what we do at camp. So many fun things that you're sharing today. And I thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Do you have any last words to share with parents or advice or wisdom?
I've got a friend of mine that does a breakfast a month with each child. So it's not that you have to set up the all-pro dad breakfast to have those conversations. So we've talked about it and we haven't implemented it yet, but my wife and I have talked about, are there ways that we can kind of have one-on-one dates with each of our children once a month? Or maybe it's 4 times a year or whatever, where you can really talk to them. Because again, you're in that kind of green zone and both your brains are calm, and hopefully you can have some, impart some wisdom on them in a positive way, rather than in the car as you're driving from, football to home or whatever, or school to piano practice, whatever it may be. So.
Sure, and maybe you can throw a donut in there to make it even more appealing.
Yes, that's right. If you do breakfast at Dunkin' Donuts, you'll have no trouble getting them to go with you,
exactly. Right? Okay. Well, thank you
go have a couple donuts and then drop them off at school, right? Get them all sugared up and then drop them off at school. All right. Yeah. He's probably going to be kind of a wreck, but...
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing a terrific job. Your kids are still so young, and, of course, you're going to keep learning new things and new ideas, and it's just awesome to see all that you're doing both at Cheley and in your own family. So thank you so much for talking with me today, Jeff, and I'll look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Sounds great. I enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed talking with Jeff today for the podcast. and I hope you enjoyed listening as well. For notes from our conversation and links to the people, books, and organizations Jeff and I talked about, visit my website at sunshine-parenting.com. My parenting tip for this week is to give your kids some growth mindset praise or to point out a character trait you like in them. And my closing inspirational thought comes from Carol Dweck. If parents want to give their children a gift, the best thing they can do is to teach their children to love challenges, be intrigued by mistakes, enjoy effort, and keep on learning. That way, their children don't have to be slaves of praise. They will have a lifelong way to build and repair their own confidence.